Rush.
Oh yeah.
I suppose it's a thing that the cover, she's only partially naked, so there is a slightly less nudity, and then you open it up and it's a bloody nudity again. I can't see. You can't see me holding it.
I can't see.
More nakedness there.
I'm gonna Google it.
It's a lady. That's the start, and she's only partially clothed, so not completely nude. So that's that's good. That helped them go more commercial. And I've got a message on Teams. Right. Yes. Rush.
Permanent waves.
There it is. Sell out, man. This. Oh, I've got a message. It's the 80s now.
So we're into sellout. Are we into the sellout period of Rush?
That's what it's meant to be. They'd already had the. They'd already done this. They'd already had the point of the make or break. Oh, you need to sell out now because your albums aren't selling, like Kansas, who did sell out and were hugely successful with being less proggy, and their response was to refuse and to write an album about a 20-minute song about how a sci-fi scenario where music is banned. That was what they did. They fought back and said no. Does that mean this is fuck you? I will do what you tell me. Have they given in now? But until you listen to the album and then you realise it just sounds like Rush.
Yeah, I don't think they say. I think they've actually. They can do pretty much what they want now, can't they?
Yeah.
They went against what they were told they should do and sold a load of albums.
Yeah.
And therefore.
This is the fourth one after that, so
Yeah. They're cruising.
Yeah, Alex Lifeson actually, he was worried that they were repeating themselves. You could argue if you go straight from the last track, the last track was La Villa Strangiato, was the Nightmare 7-minute thing on the last one. If you go straight from there, this is easier music. This is nicer music. Remember that one? The story goes they couldn't get through the whole thing in one go. Once they'd done it and then they could learn it, then they could do it, kind of thing. But supposedly they wanted to record it all in one and they didn't. So that was pretty extreme. It was hard work. And here there is more emphasis on a songiness. Songcraft is there more. There is more of an emphasis, I think. You wouldn't compare them to the Dixie Dregs anymore, even though it's kind of a bit like the Dixie Dregs in places, I suppose. Just like Genesis, they always did that stuff. There isn't really a tipping point. There is a change, and we've already discovered that, haven't we, when we did Room 101? But not yet. But just like Genesis, they always did short songs, and they did songy things, and it was always very melodic,
Yeah.
They're doing it, and I'm sure they would say they're just doing it on their own terms. They are listening to Talking Heads and things like that. Later, the Police. I don't know if they're listening to the Police yet. I don't know if this is too early for the Police. I don't think it's a conscious move. Actually, I think they just wrote the next batch of songs. I think, but the title, maybe I could have got completely wrong about the title. But, and the subject of Spirit of Radio as well do suggest they were then aware of the commercial potential of what they were doing. It's also the first time they had a proper break since they started, kind of thing. So maybe, and there was a suggestion that it was Hemispheres was such hard work to get out, and they've sold the same amount of records for all that effort. Yeah. Why not put that effort into Songcraft, and you'll probably sell more albums? I mean, they've done that now. They can move on, And like I said, they haven't really. It's the same. I mean, Natural Science probably doesn't get its due next to Xanadu and Cygnus X1, and it's another one of them. It's 9 minutes, Jacob's Ladder. passed me by completely years ago. I had this before the last two albums. It's absolutely awesome. It's another cool jamming stuff, There's only 6 tracks. Only 2 of them are really short songs. Spirit of Radio is the first Rush song I heard. That was on a Kerrang compilation. Kerrang the album. There's quite a few of those. I think that was the first one. So that's the thing. And the time struck me as a proggy band. So it's probably a thing. I thought of it as prog light. This must be their single. So maybe that is a thing. Our perception of this is difficult because we're coming from prog.
Yeah.
It's Rush at their peak. If I was to be critical, you could argue there is a certain Rush by numbers melody where there's just some chords, and you can hear it in Freewill, where it's like, and if you choose option 2, that's the one to choose, but not that one. It's like, the lyrics been written first, so they've just had to write some, and that's really. If I've got to think of something to be critical, this is top drawer, luxury proggy music, rock music, a bit less fierce than what they were doing on the last 3 albums, the last 4 albums, 5 albums.
Yeah.
You can't see I'm passing you the album.
Oh, you're passing me the album.
Oh, hang on, I've muted you right there. I touched the keyboard. Speak. Can you say something?
Speak.
I can hear you now. Okay, cool. Right.
Right. Okay, so I've got to form some opinions now on this album.
Opinions on this album.
Yeah. It seems to me that it's sort of like, if we're entering the sellout album, there seems to be a lot of people. Rush seems to be quite a popular thing with a certain sort of type of person. Sort of people who are doing quite well, who would have grown up listening to this music, absolutely love Rush, and this is what they love. They love this period.
Right, these 2 albums.
Yeah, these 2 albums, I think, because if you go too far into the 80s, then you're obviously into
synthy horrible,
nasty synthy stuff.
Yeah.
This does seem to be the perfect sort of like crossover from that really proggy stuff to 80s horribleness.
Yes.
And that is sort of exemplified in the Spirit of Radio, and in the sense that it is quite, I don't know, there's something proggy about it, the way the sort of the bass and the drums interact, and obviously the yes-like vocals. It is yes-like, isn't it, the way he sings?
Yeah, it's Yes meets Led Zeppelin was what we originally said, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's actually I think I struggle with 2112 and that. I think this. Someone said to me like many years ago, "Oh, you got to listen. If you're into Pink Floyd, you got to listen to Rush, man. You'll love Rush." And I listened to some Rush, and I think I listened to 2112 actually, because I thought, well, that may be what he's thinking about. Although I got a Hawkwind vibe off the title for some reason.
Isn't that because of Neil?
Yeah, it might be.
That's a Hawkwind of Marillion.
So yeah, I mean, but and I was slightly. I didn't really get it. I thought, well, this isn't Pink Floyd. This is nothing like Pink Floyd. And well,
no,
okay,
I
maybe
get where
they're trying to
from.
be like Pink. Go on.
Okay, well, if you like Pink Floyd and you like Metallica, so this is heavy. So I can see where they're coming from. There's nothing like Pink Floyd in there at all, though. You're right.
No, I really didn't understand that comparison to Pink Floyd. And when I told him, I listened to some of that Rush, and it was, and he was, no way, man, it's brilliant. Anyway, so, but this I like. This I don't struggle to understand why people like it, because it sounds good. It's catchy. Yeah, you can see there's sort of like major technical competence in there, but that's not the point of the music.
Yeah.
It feels like they are trying to write good songs, essentially.
Yeah.
And that's really good. I really like it. The first 3 tracks are my favourite, obviously. But as you say, Natural Science is something quite special. But it's nice to find sort of like a band where there's no controversy. A lot of the bands we sort of like listen to and enjoy are probably quite dismissed by a lot of people now. It's just proggy. They're weird, strange people that listen to prog music. I don't get it, but there's no controversy here. It seems like this is the meeting point.
It's acceptable for some reason. It's acceptable.
Yeah, even though they probably haven't got the reputation of they haven't got the reputation that they deserve, probably, in the sense that they've sold lots of albums, they've had a lot of commercial success, and yet they're not really seen as one of the greats. Even though individual Geddy Lee is obviously seen as a great performer and musician, and what's his face, the drummer, I can't remember his name now.
Neil Peart,
that's it. I mean, there's a discussion of on Howard Stern show with Lars Ulrich. Is Neil Peart the best ever drummer, or is John Bonham the best ever drummer?
Oh right, yeah. Well, he's not going to know, is he?
Well, but there's a relationship, isn't there, between Rush and Metallica? They had the same manager, Bob Weinstein, is it?
Oh, it is, isn't it? Of course it is.
Yeah, it's the same management. So I think
bloody good management.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah.
Weird. It did strike me when I found that out, and I found out sort of like the early genesis of Rush, where they had another drummer. So Neil Peart wasn't there from the outset. He was sort of like brought in after the original drummer wasn't cutting it. He wasn't. They said he wasn't looking after himself. He had diabetes or something like that, and he wasn't looking after his health, and they got rid of it. And it struck me how indifferent Geddy Lee and what's the guitarist's name? It's weird.
Alex Lifeson. I always thought it was Lifeson. It's not. It's Lifeson.
Yeah. It always struck me how indifferent Geddy Lee and Alex Lifeson seemed to be about that moment. There doesn't seem to be any guilt there.
Well, from what they said, the guy wasn't proggy. He wasn't into prog. He wasn't a prog drummer. There was also a suggestion.
He seemed to be the driving force of the kind of music that they were playing, and that's what gives them their. Because early on, Geddy Lee sounds like Robert Plant.
Yeah.
They sound so much like Led Zeppelin.
Yeah, the John Anderson thing comes a bit later, doesn't it?
Yeah. And they dispatched him, and he was a school
friend.
School friend. Yeah. It's sort of like there was nothing there, and so we got a new drummer, and you're like, what?
Yeah.
Hang on.
Goodbye.
Dispatched, and I don't know if there's a sort of I don't know if that's something that Bob Weinstein identifies in bands, a certain sort of like ruthlessness, because there seems to be that in Metallica as well.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, it is a thing you get from Rush. You get from all three of them individually that incredibly driven.
Yeah.
They're not like Black Sabbath and lazy and lying around.
No.
These are people who are really focused on being successful, and they kept being successful because they kept going and kept,
Yeah.
And I imagine the drummer didn't have that, and I thought it is implied that he wanted it, but he didn't want it quite that much. In other words, he wasn't willing to die for his career.
Yeah. Well, maybe there was a sense of compromise there. Maybe, but saying that, they did go in a direction which I should imagine their management were quite horrified by when they sort of started going really proggy.
Yes, that was it.
That actually came from Neil Peart, didn't it? I mean, Neil Peart was sort of like
he's the ninja, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Real. I mean, yeah.
Yeah,
he had a bad old time, didn't he? But I mean,
yeah.
So so I mean, it's sort of like they've gone on their little proggy exploration, and you're right. Maybe they're thinking, well, let's write songs that are slightly more accessible, and maybe have a little bit more success, and make some money. And that's what it sounds like. And it does sound like a very, very nice mix.
Balance, yeah. Yeah, you're right. There's a balance here. Right. Yeah. But I mean, it does just sound like Rush. It's not that different, is it? I mean, it's just the next album, really.
Yeah. It's hard to say. Yeah, it's hard to suggest that they're selling out here.
No, yeah. I mean, Natural Science, I think, doesn't get its due because it's not on Farewell to Kings or whatever. It's just as good as Xanadu and whatever, and Farewell to Kings. Funny what you said. That, right, I've got a sibling who has no taste in music. His music taste is terrible. He just likes what the people around him like, etc. He liked crappy indie music. He liked a band called Salad in the 90s.
Didn't he like Led Zeppelin though?
He did like Led? Yeah, he does like Led Zeppelin. Yeah, but he also likes rock music. But I think he's just driven by. He worries about what people think of him and the music he listens, And now he likes jazz. Just because his wife likes jazz, suddenly he likes jazz now. He don't like jazz. He hated jazz. Lies. But this was a couple of years ago now. But we were sitting and we went to a concert, and you can't quite hear what people are saying. And he said to me, "Oh, we've been listening to Rush." And I said, "What? Bush? You've been listening to Bush?" Because that's what he listens to, that kind of stuff.
Right.
No, Rush, really? And it was these two albums, Permanent Waves and Moving Pictures. Is that interesting?
That is interesting.
And I'd never have guessed in a million years, because to me the vocals, I like the vocals, but they're like John Anderson or something. They're not.
They are. For some reason, I don't find it as offensive as John Anderson.
For some reason, it's acceptable and sounds like rock. To me, it doesn't. To me, it just sounds like weird prog singing. It's great. Interesting. I mean, the first two songs are more commercial. They're very they've just got good melodies that are very catchy. And they're still like 5 minutes. I mean, Freewill has got a middle section. Not a big fan of Freewill, but I like the middle section, and it's like a Discipline-esque, proggy sounding, bassy thing. It's actually before Discipline. Remember, Discipline hasn't come out yet. The guitar. I'm sure I said this in the other reviews. The guitar for me is the least interesting part of the music, because I'm a guitarist, and to me this is too generic.
I find that as well. I don't know why. I'm sort of like...
Yeah, it's not... he ain't Steve Howe. He can do Steve Howe if he wants, obviously, but there's something much more generic there.
Yeah.
And he's not like Randy Rhoads or something later or whatever. He's not anything like that. But here's the thing: when we've been, I've been listening to this to prepare. I've been listening to The Who. That's to come, I'm afraid. And that's what it is. It's The Who. It's the
Sounds like The
Who. That's what he's doing. It's the thrashy hitting the guitariness. It's The Who. Yeah, sorry. It took me that long to realise that's what he's doing. So that to me is meh, in that it's the other end of things to what I like in the guitars. But so that's why I'm amazed. The bass parts are so awesome. Obviously, so much is the drumming and the songs, and there's cool solos occasionally. I mean, like Spirit of Radio has it's a bluesy wah solo, isn't it? It's normal guitar playing. Do you know anything about the lyrics? I don't know anything about the lyrics.
Nah.
I'm guessing Freewill is like an Ayn thing, but I don't actually know. I don't listen. Never mind. It was recorded in Quebec.
Really?
Previous albums were recorded in Wales.
Really?
Now,
cool.
For a long time I thought, it's Wales, Canada.
Wales.
Must
Yeah,
be.
some part of Canada that's Wales.
I think it's actually Wales.
No way.
it's funny to us. That's so mundane and rubbish. On the cover, the newspaper said the newspaper headline was "Dewey defeats Truman," which is a famous newspaper headline, which was wrong. And when Truman had won his election, there's a famous photo of him holding it up, going, "Ah, ha, ha." No, he didn't. I won. But they put it on the cover, and it was so controversial, they took it off. So it's rubbed out now. I don't know what that means. I thought it was interesting and relevant. Losers pretending they've won is now a thing. It's fascinating. I have no clue what the relevance of that is at all. Shall I talk about this Kerrang compilation? Have you got time?
Yeah, go for it.
Cool. Because it's something I bought so many years ago. 1994. It's actually a bit more recent than I thought. That's 27 years ago.
Jesus.
But I think it's the first time they started doing this. I mean, Kerrang, I actually dislike now, in that they are very much the journalist thing and lowest common denominator. They're like the son of rock music, aren't they?
Yeah.
But because it's the first one, they had 2 discs, so they did a contemporary disc and a classics disc. So it's really interesting who's on the contemporary one and who would now be on a classics one. So the classics one, they couldn't get Iron Maiden and they couldn't get Led Zeppelin, too famous, and no Metallica obviously as well. So the really, really big bands aren't on there, but they have got, there's Black Sabbath and Deep Purple and Judas Priest and Motorhead and Meatloaf and Megadeth and UFO and Rush. Spirit of Radio is on there. That was the first time I heard Spirit of Radio was on that.
Really?
Yeah. And Epic by Faith No More was already on the classics. Even though to us that's like the same, but it's actually Angel of Death by Slayer, Born to Be Wild and Freebird.
Well, the amazing thing about that is you've actually still got it, Kev.
Well, I've still got all my CDs. Except for In the Army Now, which I gave to my brother, and I regret.
You regret it?
Yeah. Well, probably not. Probably if I'd had it, I thought it was awful. The horrible 80s-ness. But, I've got a Status Quo compilation, and it's awesome. But I guess that's all 70s stuff.
Yeah.
But the contemporary disc, you got Soundgarden. Now, Soundgarden would now be on the classics disc. But there's some of these other bands, Prong, Biohazard, Therapy. Don't know if you remember Therapy.
No.
Sepultura would now be on the classics. Megadeth are on both discs. Pantera will be on the classics disc, Wild Hearts would not be on the classics disc. Terrorvision would not be on the classics disc. Chili Peppers probably would. Clawfinger, never heard of them. Duff McKagan. It would be that's. I imagine that's because they couldn't get Guns N' Roses. Little Angels, never heard of them. The Almighty, definitely not. Alice in Chains, maybe. Highly regarded. So that's interesting. Not much to do with Rush though. So yeah, Permanent Waves. I'll never like it as much as the previous 2 albums. So Farewell to Kings and Hemispheres. The very, very intense experiences, but really good. But controversially, I'd say this is a better album than 2112. But not as good as Caress of Steel either, I don't think. So it's just to me it's just another Rush album. I don't get the. This isn't they haven't sold out to me. It's just more,
Yeah. I don't think they've sold out here. I just think it's more accessible.
Right.
That's what, and more people like it. So
people,
there's going to be sort of like some people which would automatically dismiss that. Then, you've sold out because people like it.
Yeah. So yeah, they're obviously whatever it is doesn't chime with me because I don't. It's not more accessible to me because the other stuff's accessible, but it's not like a sellout. But you're right; it must do a thing because people like it.
Yeah. Yeah.
5. It's 4 eggs. I'm going to give it 4 eggs. I'm going to be really harsh.
That is harsh. I'm going to say 5 eggs.
Ooh.
That's
exciting.
That's a high benchmark, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what we're going to do next week, Kev?
Moving pictures. The next one. And I won't put this on the video, but we'll decide whether we want to do the one after that as well, because that's actually a journey there, I think.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh dear. Okay. Yeah.